Hi, everybody. I hope you had a good weekend. I'm going to do something a little bit different with this slideshow, and I'm going to make it a slideshow that we work on or that I work on while you watch it. And so I'll give sort of a narrative overlay and maybe draw a few things on it as we go along. So, chapter 16 is the next chapter that we're reading in our book. It's called Evaluations. And so the first thing we need to discuss is the definition of evaluation. Obviously, an evaluation is a judgment. So you are writing to judge something. Another word for evaluation is review. And of course, we make evaluations or review things in our lives all the time: restaurants, phones, cars, classes, etc. But writing a good evaluation is different from just stating your opinion about it. So, how do we write a good evaluation? What do we think about when we're deciding to write an evaluation of something? The first thing to do is to include a concise description of the subject. Don't summarize it too much, just enough so that we know what you're reviewing. Next, you determine clear criteria as the foundation of your judgment. And so here are what criteria are. Criteria are defined as standards of measurement, the basis of judgment for what you are reviewing. And I'll talk about criteria later in the slideshow. You also need to know the subject you choose fairly well. I would not suggest that you select something to review that you don't already have some knowledge about. The review you're writing is 1,000 words, and because of the length and because we don't have an entire semester to work on it, it seems more logical that you'd be working on something that you already have at least a little bit of knowledge about. And you will do research on it if you need to, but this review is not a research paper. It is your evaluation, and any research incorporated should only help your review and not actually be the review. Okay, another feature of an evaluation is to make sure that your review is balanced and fair. Now, seldom is something all good or all bad, but rather somewhere in between. And you can review something that's all good in your estimation or all bad. So, for instance, if you like a particular singer and they just came out with an album that you think is the best album they ever did and the greatest album of all time, then certainly you can do that. But like I say, most things are somewhere in between. And then finally, the last feature is to have well-supported reasons for your evaluation. And we're going to talk about how reasons are the same thing as criteria. Okay, selecting a topic. In an essay like we're writing, you will narrow your topic to something specific within a large, broad category. So, examples of what you can review. You can review one restaurant, one film, one episode of a TV series, one book, etc. You can review a thing, such as the iPhone. You can review a TV series, such as Friends or The Office. You can review a place, such as Cancun or Disney World. I even had a student once review a brand of air conditioner. So the possibilities are endless. Be creative. And later, I'm not sure this week if it's on the calendar, but at some point we're going to do some free writing, kind of like we did for our last paper. Okay, so here is the rhetorical situation of an evaluation. Remember, we talked about rhetorical situation in our last slide show, and from the beginning of the semester, we've talked about what the rhetorical situation is. It's a way for you to analyze and step back and think about the ideas related to what you're talking about, as well as the situation around the argument that you're making. So the first thing to think about is purpose. Is the purpose something that's intended to affect your audience's opinion? To get them to go somewhere, to buy something, or to not go somewhere, to not buy something, etc. Let's think about your audience. Is your audience multiple, known, or unknown? What do they know already about your topic? What do they need to know about your topic? Do they tend to agree with you already or not? And think back to one of the first slideshows about audience as well. What are some of the characteristics of your audience? What are their demographic makeups? How do you understand that audience, and what will you need to omit that they may already know? Let's think about genre. So the genre obviously is an evaluation. It's also within the genre of argument, because you're intending to get people to go do the thing, see the thing, at least acknowledge there's another opinion, or to change their mind. So stance. What is your attitude or stand toward the subject? How will you show that? And what are your reasons for saying so? What evidence can you provide? And then finally, media and design. So we know how it's being turned in, MLA format through Blackboard. But can you show images, other things like that? Of course, media design comes more into play when you're doing a project rather than just an essay. So selecting criteria. So you've selected a topic. The next thing to do is to begin listing the criteria you think should be used to evaluate the broad subject after you have chosen your specific topic. So for instance, say your specific topic is Chick-fil-A. You want to review Chick-fil-A. Here's a list of criteria that you might use to write your review. The taste of the food, the presentation of the food, the variety of food they offer, the drive-through speed and or the service inside, the cleanliness of the establishment, and the price. The broad category of Chick-fil-A, okay, so the broad category is fast food restaurants. And the specific topic is Chick-fil-A. Okay, I've made a little chart here to get you to understand a little bit better what I mean between specific topic and broad subject criteria. So obviously the specific topic is what you've chosen to review. The broad subject criteria are what we use to judge the specific topic, essentially the categories of judgment. So here are 3 specific topics that I might choose to do, completely in different categories. One is in the category of a theme park, one is in the category of a movie, and one is in the category of a social media app. And my specific topic is Disney World, or Pulp Fiction, or Twitter. So I've listed all of the broad subject criteria that I can think of that I might include in a paper that is reviewing that particular specific topic. So I'm just going to pause here for about, 25 seconds or so that you can look at the criteria yourself in each one of these categories. Okay, final thoughts on criteria. List as many criteria for your topic as you can. You won't have room to discuss 10 different criteria, but if you start out listing 10, then you'll narrow it down to the ones you think are most important. And when you compare and contrast your topic to other things within the same category, if you're struggling to think of a comparison, consider the criteria. For instance, you've chosen to review Pulp Fiction. You've listed out the broad subject criteria. And so you're not sure what to compare it to. One idea would be a film by the same director, because you're actually discussing the directing of the film in your paper. And another comparison might be to another film that has a little bit of a violent bent to its script. Okay, going on. Sorry, I'm trying to move on. Okay. How to generate your draft. After thinking about criteria, consider how your subject fits into those criteria. How your topic. Remember, we're talking about your specific topic. You could judge Chick-fil-A, for instance, not just on the criteria mentioned, but then compare it to something like McDonald's or KFC or other fast food restaurants that may even have chicken as their specialty. I wrote a thesis sentence here for a potential essay on Chick-fil-A. I'm going to probably have another short PowerPoint on writing a thesis, but a thesis is supposed to be thorough, specific, detailed, and predict for us what your paper will be about. So my thesis for Chick-fil-A: although its waffle fries are slightly too thick and chewy, Chick-fil-A's overall atmosphere, speed, and especially its original chicken sandwich rank it in the upper echelons of fast food chicken establishments. So with that thesis, I know that I'm going to be writing about atmosphere, speed, and the taste of its chicken sandwich. I'm also going to have to write about the waffle fries because I called them thick and chewy in the thesis. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Final thoughts on writing your draft. Anticipate other opinions. What might other people say about your stance? How can you, in your review, at least acknowledge that other people have different opinions, even if you don't agree with them? And finally, identify and support the reasons why you will most likely persuade your audience. Remember, a review's primary purpose is to convince your audience to accept your judgment. Even if you ultimately do not convince them, at least they will acknowledge a different perspective. And the last slide is about organizing the evaluation. Actually, the last couple of pages in our chapter on evaluation have this in a chart format, but I just wanted to also give it in the slideshow because we went through essentially the whole process here, from the beginning, defining evaluation, what it fits into, its rhetorical situation, pre-writing, ideas for generating the draft, and then the conclusion. So anyway, that's all. Check later in the week for more slideshows and/or lectures and notes. Thanks. Bye-bye.